Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 347 based on novel. So let's start. The ancient gods' 3 trials 7 calamities were like the cultivators' 5 heavens blights. It was a knife hanging above their heads. If they survived, their cultivation level would increase greatly, but if they failed, they'd die. The first trial had 2 calamities, and the second trial also had 2 calamities. The third trial has 3 calamities. The ancient gods' 3 trials 7 calamities were even more strange than cultivators' 5 heavens blights. According to Wang Lin's memories, the more powerful the ancient god, the later the trials and calamities would come. Although an ancient god would normally experience the first trial at 6 stars, some ancient gods experienced it at 7 stars. There was even a very small portion of ancient gods that faced their first trial at 8 stars. Sai was one of them. He encountered the first trial at 8 stars and easily passed it. It increased his power greatly, and although he wasn't able to reach 9 stars, he was at the peak of 8 stars. If it wasn't for attempting to break through to the legendary 9-star stage, he wouldn't have risked cultivating the flowing ink transformation divine technique. As for the third trial and the final 3 calamities, they were the highest trial an ancient god would face. As for what they were, Sai didn't know. Sai's memories didn't contain anything about encountering the first trial at 5 stars. Every time Wang Lin thought about this, he wryly smiled. The early arrival of his first trial was related to his incomplete ancient god body and the fact that he had overused his ancient god power in the demon spirit land. All of this caused him to be the first ancient god to suffer the first trial at 5 stars. The trial that an 8-star ancient god had easily passed was like life and death for Wang Lin. One of the calamities of the first trial was the body calamity. Back in the Vermilion Bird Divine sect, Wang Lin's lower half was all bones. Now, after arriving at the Cloud Sea star system, this intensified, and everything from his chest and below were bones. This was merely the beginning, the arrival of the first calamity. The body would continue to decay until there was no flesh and blood left. Then the first calamity would end and the second one would begin. If there were no changes, his original body would without a doubt die. Fortunately, Wang Lin had obtained Sai's heart blood, so he had a fighting chance. The original body was sitting deep underground under the origin sect. There wasn't a trace of flesh or blood, only bones remained. There was a thin, blood-colored film wrapped around the bones. If you looked carefully, you would see a very tiny amount of blood moving between the film and bones. As Wang Lin's avatar closed in, his original body's eye sockets revealed ghostly lights as if he was awakening. He silently looked at his original body and sat down to protect it. He also put all his focus into his original body to help it share the pain. Time slowly passed, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days went by. In these 3 days, the original body's suffering intensified. The feeling of not having any flesh or blood but still retaining your sanity was enough to make people crazy. During these 3 days, the original body's size had expanded 10-fold. At this moment, under the origin sect, there was a 100-foot-tall skeleton calmly laying there. There were flashes of bloodlight as the blood under the film flowed faster. After another 3 days, Wang Lin's skeleton finished expanding and reached over 3,000 feet tall. The small amount of blood was still flowing through the bones, all of which were bigger than a person. However, the blood flow slowed down until it eventually dissipated. This blood was Sai's heart blood. During these days, the heart blood was being slowly absorbed by the original body's bones. When all the blood was absorbed, the first calamity ended. Just at this moment, the original body's eyes shined brightly as if his gaze could pierce through the earth and see the blue sky above. At the same time, a wave of crackling sounds echoed underground. Bone calamity. This crackling sound came from his original body's right foot. It was as if a giant hand was slowly crushing his huge right foot bone. His bones shattered and turned into ashes. Under this unimaginable pain, the original body was trembling. However, this crackling sounds didn't stop, they got even more intense. It was like thunder echoing underground. Every crack was a bone on the original body collapsing. Wang Lin's avatar's face was pale. He clenched his teeth as he shared the unimaginable pain with the original body. The veins on his face were swollen and large drops of sweat fell. The bone calamity descended ruthlessly like this. With the ancient god's powerful vitality, even with no flesh or blood left, they could recover as long as there was a trace of vitality remaining. The first trial was vitality. After the vitality was erased, the bone calamity would arrive and attempt to destroy the bones that could no longer recover without the vitality. Once all the bones were destroyed, the result would be death. If his original body died, his avatar would perish. If he wanted to pass the bone calamity, he would have to reawaken his vitality to fight it until his bones reformed. The newly formed bones would be several times stronger than before. Magic treasures wouldn't be able to damage them at all. Therefore, even though the pain was worse than death, he still endured. Both his avatar and original body endured. He endured the pain of his bones fracturing and collapsing. He had to wait until the moment all his bones shattered to get the biggest gains. If not, even if he resisted and was successful, only some of the bones be reformed and the rest would stay the same as before. If that happened, he would have wasted this chance. However, Wang Lin understood that the longer he resisted, the lower the success rate. As more bones collapsed, the difficulty increased. In truth, ignoring those who went through this at 8 stars, almost all 7-star ancient gods would choose to wait for all their bones to collapse before they resisted. This was also they could change this calamity into a great fortune. This idea was good, but it was rare that anyone actually lasted that long. Most of the time, when only a human fingernail-sized amount of bone remained, they couldn't help but begin to resist. As a result, that fingernail-sized bone would become the only flaw on the body of most ancient gods. Since 7-star ancient gods were like this, even fewer 6-star ancient gods were able to hold out until the last moment. The last moment was like the end of the path. There were countless steps forward if you succeeded, but if you took a step back, it meant death. Wang Lin wasn't sure if he could last until the last moment. However, in order to reform his flesh and blood so he could become a true ancient god and not an incomplete one, Wang Lin decided to risk it all. My avatar is a heaven-defying cultivator, my original body is bloodline-defying. I, Wang Lin, spent my life cultivating the word defy. I defy the heavens, defy the calamity, and even defy fate. A mere calamity isn't enough to stop my defying path. Wang Lin's avatar and original body shined, revealing unyielding gazes. There was no shout or roar, just that unyielding gaze was able to display Wang Lin's defying nature. It was invisible and heaven-shaking. Crackling sounds echoed loudly as his entire right leg had collapsed and even everything up to his knee on his left leg had turned to ashes. The sound of bones collapsing gradually transmitted to the surface. During this half a month, the entire continent of Moluo could hear the thunderous rumbles coming from the ground. At first it was faint, but it grew louder and louder. Now even the earth was trembling slightly. The mortals on the continent were terrified as they didn't know what was happening. They could only kneel and pray for the gods to not be angry. The cultivators of the Origin sect put a huge importance on this matter. They sent out almost the whole sect to investigate. These noises sounded like a roars, and every time it fell in their ears, they couldn't help but be shaken. Li Xiaodong and Lu Yanfei, along with the other 2 elders, floated in the air and looked at the earth. Due to their cultivation levels, they clearly felt where the roars were coming from. Li Xiaodong wanted to go down to check, but he was stopped by Lu Yanfei. However, now the roars were even more intense, almost heaven-shaking. If this was it, it wouldn't be an issue, but all the Origin energy on the continent began to stir as if there was an invisible vortex sucking in Origin energy from all directions. What terrified the 4 of them even more was that a large amount of Origin energy was gathering outside the continent. Although this Origin energy was outside, once it rushed in, the barrier around the continent would collapse instantly. Thinking about the consequences of this, the 4 of them would feel their scalps tingle. What shocked them even more were the fierce beasts that appeared in the fog outside the continent. For some reason, large amounts of fierce beasts were lured to the continent of Moluo. They all stared fiercely at the continent, but they also showed hesitation. They were going to charge in several times but were held off. It was as if there was something really attractive here for the fierce beasts, but rationality made them not dare to move. This resulted in hesitation. There were rank 5 and even rank 6 beasts among them. What terrified Li Xiangdong even more was that he even saw a rank 7 beast. A rank 7 beast was enough to battle a mid-stage Nirvana cleanser cultivator. Junior Sister Lu, I don't know why you stopped the three of us, but today we must go check. We must know exactly what is happening that is causing this unexpected surge in origin energy and attracting all the fierce beasts that hide in the star fog. Li Xiangdong thought of the rank 7 beast and his mind trembled. He stared at Lu Yanfei with a very serious expression. The other two elders also silently looked at Lu Yanfei. Lu Yanfei bit her lower lip and silently nodded. One of the two elders worriedly said, if it was only rank 7 beast, it would be fine. I just fear that if this continues, a rank 8 beast that could fight a peak Nirvana cleanser cultivator might appear, and what if rank 9 beasts that are no different from Nirvana Shatterer cultivators are attracted? By then, my continent of Mo Lua will be plunged into chaos. Li Xiangdong pondered a bit and slowly said, I don't think so. After all, this continent is located near the edge of the rank 4 region, so there shouldn't be any powerful monsters around. I hope so. The old man shook his head and revealed a bitter face before looking at Lu Yanfei. Even now, the three of them didn't know why Lu Yanfei had stopped them from checking. Lu Yanfei didn't explain. She turned into a ray of light and charged down. The three of them looked at each other and silently followed Lu Yanfei. When they got near the ground, there was a flash of light and they penetrated the ground. Underground, the four of them slowed down as the roars became even more clear. Due to being closer to the sound, not only did their minds tremble, their bodies trembled as well. Terrifying fluctuations came from the depths, causing them to feel pressure in their souls. It was as if there was a terrifying existence that could shock the world, and before it, the three of them were merely ants. This clear feeling immediately caused them to stop and their expressions to become serious. Only Lu Yanfei's eyes lit up and bit her lower lip, but no one knew what she was thinking. What the hell is it? To give off such pressure? These fluctuations shouldn't be a treasure. The three of them were extremely cautious. After hesitating for a bit, Li Xiangdong clenched his teeth and led the way. He wanted to see what exactly was down there. The deeper they went, the greater the pressure became. The roars became even more deafening, causing them to tremble. This pressure made them feel like they were facing the end of the world. The fall moved slower and slower, and the pressure coming from underground contained a hint of madness. The moment the four of them felt it, they immediately trembled. I suggest we leave immediately. Lu Yanfei had been silent the whole way, and this was the first time she had sent out a message. The remaining three silently thought for a moment before Li Xiangdong's eyes lit up, and he said, I refuse to leave without knowing what is down below. With that, he immediately charged deeper. The two elders hesitated for a bit before following him. Lu Yanfei let out a sigh and also followed. As the four of them went deeper, the source of the sound became closer. At this moment, the roar was already far stronger than thunder. From their current position, they could hear the original sound, a heaven-shaking, crackling sound. This noise was like the sound of bones breaking. This caused them to feel all the bones in their bodies tingle. However, just as the four closed in and were about to enter the source, a crazed divine sense swept by. Leave this place. This divine sense was very powerful and smashed into them like a storm. Li Xiangdong was the closest and was directly knocked back by the storm. His body trembled and he coughed out blood as popping sounds echoed in his body. He retreated without hesitation and monstrous fear filled his eyes. Not only him, but even the two elders' bodies trembled as they coughed out blood and immediately retreated. Their minds trembled and fear and terror appeared in their eyes. Even Li Yanfei's body trembled as blood came out of the corner of her mouth. However, her eyes became even brighter as this voice confirmed the speculation in her heart. Which senior is cultivating here? Junior is the origin sex Li Xiangdong clasped his hands while retreating and tried to speak. Scram! The divine sense spread out again, but it was several times stronger and crazier than before. This divine sense formed a storm that caused the continent of Mo Luo to tremble. A crazed power came from the depths and charged toward the four of them. Li Xiangdong's body trembled and he coughed out even more blood. Under the impact of this power, they were forced back in a straight line as if there was an unimaginable force pushing them. The ground trembled before they were thrown out from underground. Just as he broke through the surface and floated in the air, there was another roar. The two elders were thrown out from underground, both coughing out blood. They were in an extremely sorry state, and Lu Yanfei was the same. The four of them stood in the air, their eyes filled with terror. Their hearts trembled as they looked at each other. Lu Yanfei took a deep breath as she wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and slowly said, "I already told you all not to go." Fortunately, although Grand Uncle Master was angry, he didn't hurt us much. Grand Uncle Master? The three of them were pale, and that crazed divine sense was imprinted in their minds. Just thinking about it frightened them, but Lu Yanfei's words startled them. Lu Yanfei pondered for a moment and softly said, "Grand Uncle Master Lu Shihao. You all should have heard of him." Ignoring the four of them for now, deep underground, Wang Lin's 3,000-foot-tall body had almost all of its bones shattered, leaving behind bone ashes in the shape of a person. There were still thunderous roars coming from it. Even a majority of the skull had shattered, and it was still collapsing. This kind of pain was indescribable and was burning the minds of both the original body and the avatar. Just at this moment, crackling sounds came from the remaining half-skull, and it collapsed even more. It continued to collapse, and the bone ashes scattered. The skull continued to shrink until it was only the size of a human palm. This small piece of bone was really insignificant to a 3,000-foot ancient god, but Wang Lin still endured despite the fact that this suffering was enough to make him go mad. The rumbling continued. The palm-sized bone began to disintegrate and became smaller and smaller. It was only the size of a fingernail, but due to the aftermath of the collapse, it completely dissipated. Time seemed to stop and the world seemed to no longer function. The broken bones turned to ashes and began to dissipate. At this moment, Wang Lin's avatar suddenly opened his eyes and raised his right hand. "Stop!" With one word, the avatar's body immediately trembled. Rumbling sounds came from his body as he coughed out blood and was knocked back. At the same time, the dissipating ashes paused for a moment. Shortly after, the aura of an ancient god spread out like crazy. The origin energy outside the continent of Mo Luo rushed in and closed in on this place. A silent roar that could penetrate the soul echoed underground. It rushed out and echoed within the ears of every mortal, cultivator, and creature on the continent. This roar contained the defying will. Wang Lin's avatar suffered serious injuries from the backlash of using the stop spell to win a chance for the original body to survive. The dissipating ashes began to condense at an unimaginable speed and formed a fingernail-sized piece of bone. During the recondensing processes, the origin energy of the continent mixed in with the bone. The reformed bone was far stronger than this original body's original bones. This fingernail-sized bone continued to grow until it was 7 inches long. This 7-inch bone took a good chunk of origin energy stored on the continent of Mo Luo. The bone was still growing and soon formed a curved skull about 5 feet large. On the bone, there was a burst of black light, and that black light was the bone calamity that was crushing the ancient god's bones. The bone calamity was constantly destroying the bones while the original body kept reforming them. This cycle continued until the bones of the original body reached a peak. Bursts of silent roars echoed as the 5-foot skull began to grow. Eventually, all the origin energy on the continent of Mo Luo was absorbed, leaving nothing behind. At this moment, Wang Lin's skull had completely reformed. Red light shined out from his eye sockets, revealing an unyielding will. "I'm an ancient god that dares to fight the heavens. A mere bone calamity can't destroy me." The red light from the original body's eyes was bright and his neck began to form. At the same time, the origin energy gathered outside the continent of Mo Luo rushed in toward the protective barrier. The protective barrier collapsed like paper. The moment it collapsed, the powerful origin energy entered. It turned into a storm and rushed at the origin sect. All the cultivators in the origin sect had already evacuated. They were staring at the storm of origin energy rushing underground. The collapse of the barrier and the surge of origin energy caused the fierce beasts outside to enter. However, before they could spread out, they were pulled into the origin sect by this suction force. The sky was shrouded by the fog, and the fog flowed like a river into the ground. Those fierce beasts outside seemed to be frightened. All of them retreated and didn't dare to close in. Large amounts of origin energy and fog were quickly absorbed by Wang Lin. The rumbling continued as Wang Lin's bones reformed at an incredible speed. His bones recondensed while confronting the bone calamity. Not only had his skull and neck reappeared, Wang Lin's entire upper body had reformed. Although the bone calamity was strong, it was forced to retreat from Wang Lin's defying will and desperate struggle. It wasn't able to stop the bones from regenerating at all. All the origin energy and star fog within 50 kilometers of the continent of Mo Luo were pulled in. From afar, it looked like a giant vortex had formed, and the origin sect was the center of the vortex. Even further away, a giant, lion-shaped beast covered in thorns moved toward the continent of Mo Luo with a greedy gaze. None of the fierce beasts dared to approach it when the aura of a rank 8 beast spread out. All the origin energy within 50 kilometers was rushing in, but it still wasn't enough. Wang Lin's upper body had reformed and his lower half was still reforming. The origin energy continued to surge in, being pulled from the surrounding 500-kilometer area. This giant vortex stirred all the origin energy and star fog in the area, but its expansion didn't stop. After all, compared to the continent of Mo Luo, 500 kilometers was truly insignificant. 1,500 kilometer, 2,500 kilometers, 5,000 kilometers, 15,000 kilometers. 50,000 kilometers, 150,000 kilometers. 500,000 kilometers. The fog and origin energy within 500,000 kilometers of the continent of Mo Luo went crazy and rushed into the continent. Very few people in the Cloud Sea knew where the star fog came from. It was as if this star fog had always been here. If one looked back, one would find that before the celestial realm collapsed and the ancient celestial realm was still there, this fog existed as well. What exactly the star fog was a difficult question for the cultivators in the Cloud Sea to explain. They only knew that it was because of this star fog that the Cloud Sea was filled with fierce beasts. Wang Lin didn't know what the star fog was, but as the fog merged into his reforming bones, he had a strange feeling. However, he wasn't able to figure out why. As the origin energy from within 500,000 kilometers of the continent of Mo Luo rushed in, Wang Lin's legs began to reform. The explosive growth speed was stronger than the bone calamity, and a moment later his left leg formed. His right leg soon reformed as well. After all the bones in his body had reformed, the bone calamity disappeared. However, the calamity wasn't over yet. After his bones were restored, tendons began appearing and flesh reformed around his bones. However, the moment this flesh reappeared, it immediately collapsed. The flesh calamity arrived and thus achieved the goal of grinding away his vitality. Wang Lin had already prepared for this phenomenon. The moment the flesh calamity appeared, the avatar wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and opened up his storage space. Fist-sized blood crystals he had gotten from the land of the ancient god flew out. He had used some of them to help the original body could keep a trace of vitality, and he was going to use the rest here. At this moment, these blood crystals flew out and fell on Wang Lin's bones. The moment they landed, they invaded his bones. The moment Wang Lin took out the blood crystals, all of the retreating fierce beasts stopped, looked at the continent, and began to roar. There was a hint of madness in their eyes, as if the blood crystals were the best nourishment for them. As long as they caught a scent, they were willing to do anything for it. As the roars continued, these fierce beasts immediately changed direction and charged at the continent of Mo Luo. There were rank 5, 6, and 7 beasts among them. They all seemed to have gone crazy as they rushed down. The origin sect cultivators were shocked by these events. They were awakened by the fierce beasts rushing down. After Wang Lin's original body had absorbed the blood crystals, lines of blood appeared over the bones. As the origin energy and star fog surged in, flesh began to form along the lines of blood. At this moment, the roars of the fierce beasts entered the ground. Killing intent appeared in the eyes of the avatar, and the original body's eyes also gave off a ghostly glow. Crackling sounds echoed as the original body shrank from 3,000 feet to the size of a normal person. The avatar charged out and fused with the original body once more. After fusing with his original body, Wang Lin looked up and rushed out. Popping sounds echoed as he charged out from underground. The moment he charged out from underground, all of the fierce beasts rushed at him like crazy. Coldness flashed across Wang Lin's eyes as he appeared before an octopus-like beast and threw a punch with his right hand. With a bang, the fierce beast's body trembled and blood sprayed out everywhere, created a mist of blood. Even its soul had shattered, but an invisible energy appeared and entered Wang Lin's body. This invisible energy was the fierce beast's vitality and the thing Wang Lin needed the most. He clearly felt that his original body started reforming a bit faster when that vitality entered his body. Wang Lin quickly rushed to the side of another beast and punched. He almost left behind after images as he moved around punching. He caused blood to rain down on the continent of Mo Luo. Those fierce beasts wanted to devour the blood crystals Wang Lin had absorbed, but before they could succeed, they all exploded one by one. A thunderous rumble echoed across the sky. Wang Lin took one step and appeared next to a giant python. As it opened its mouth to devour Wang Lin's fist landed on its mouth. Popping sounds echoed, then the vitality of the python entered Wang Lin's body and its mouth exploded. In a short period of time, more than 100 fierce beasts died. After absorbing their vitality, Wang Lin felt an extremely comfortable feeling in his body. His eyes lit up and he rushed out once more. The fierce beasts exploded one by one. When the surrounding cultivators that were hiding saw this, they were completely shocked. This was especially true for Li Xiangdong and company. Lu Yanfei was slightly better as she was somewhat prepared. However, Li Xiangdong stared dumbfoundedly at all of this, and the two elders beside him gasped. Grand Uncle Master. He is Grand Uncle Master. That was a rank 6 beast, but it was killed by one punch spell from Grand Uncle Master. Just at this moment, the roar of a beast came from the distance. At the edge of the horizon, a 2,000 feet tall lion-shaped beast that was covered in thorns rushed over. The moment it appeared, all the surrounding fierce beasts scattered as if they weren't willing to get close to it. Rank 8 Sword Lion Beast. Li Xiangdong's pupils contracted and the two elders beside him exclaimed. Even Lu Yanfei sucked in a deep breath and revealed a nervous expression. Wang Lin suddenly raised his head, and his eyes shined. Before the eyes of every cultivator, he charged like a meteor into the sky toward the mighty rank 8 fierce beast. He moved faster than lightning. When he got close to the lion, Wang Lin mercilessly kicked with his left foot. A heaven-shaking roar echoed as the mighty beast's body trembled and exploded into a mist of blood. A large amount of vitality entered Wang Lin's body. He was like a god standing there, enjoying the large amount of vitality from the rank 8 beast. The surroundings suddenly became silent, and the greed from the surrounding fierce beasts disappeared and was replaced with fear. All the cultivators stared at this scene, almost unable to believe their own eyes. Rank 8, Li Xiangdong was startled and his mind was blank. The two elders behind him were also in a daze. They were completely shocked. This video will end here.